without a fight. They fall without a fight. But you have given me two wings to soar.
Hello, everybody. So glad we could be together today. I'm back after being out of town last week, and you and Heather held down the broadcast and did it. I was so busy, I don't even know what you talked about. Didn't get to see it because I was in Ohio.
Spiritual authority is what we
Good,
covered. Yeah.
Good. Well, I was in Ohio, and I took our grandson and Pastor J.D. King, of course, my son-in-law too. We all went and Matt took a friend and something he's wanted to do for a long time to Cedar Point, where the world's largest and biggest roller coaster park is in the world, that I know of at least. And he rode roller coasters for 2 days straight, just all day long. And I went and sat.
I
actually did
yeah.
work too on my phone, some work and
Yeah.
communication and things, because I thought I would rather work than ride the roller coasters. But I used to ride them.
Yes, you did.
I used to ride everything all
you
day
did.
long. Even when I was real young, I used to ride them. When I was real little, 10 years old, I guess, that little, I might have told you this before, but my dad worked at the Missouri State Fair. They set up a booth, to sell sewing machines. And he was a manager. And so he managed the store and he managed this booth. And he got there at 8 in the morning and stayed till it was a 12-hour day. And so, of course, at the State Fair, they had this old-fashioned carnival now. It seems really outdated, but they still have it. They'll still have it this year. Same one, probably.
Oh, no.
Yeah, real old.
Yeah, that was
old
real
stuff.
rinky-dink a lot of years ago.
Old
Okay.
stuff.
Old.
Yeah, but anyway,
Okay.
I would go with him to work many days. And not to work, but I'd hang out a little bit with him. But I'd go in with him, and then he just turned me loose. You could be turned loose, I guess. I mean, the carnival wasn't the best place to be all day long,
Right.
but I would just go and ride rides all day long. I'd get a wristband and just ride all day long. That's what I do. I rode everything. And then I got so familiar with him, as you know, by the time I was 14 and 15 and 16, I was working there. I worked for the carnival people, carnies, as we called them. Interesting group of people.
Interesting.
But I also then, as I got to be 16, and I worked for them. I also worked for the state, and I also worked for a private company out of St. Louis,
My word.
and did decorations until I got in charge. I was at 18, maybe 16 years old, 17 years old. They put me in charge of all the decorations on the fairgrounds for the whole fair. So if something fell down, I had to go get a ladder and put it back up.
Fell
I put 'em up.
down.
Yeah, they had a crew. I didn't put them all up. They had
Yeah.
a crew, and I was part of a crew, but they gave me
You
a
were the
pass.
overseer,
They
sort of?
gave me passes to everywhere.
Ooh.
So I got to go backstage when all the famous people were there, and I decorated the
Yeah.
rooms for like Lawrence Welk came. I decorated his
Yeah.
room, and you probably
I remember, I was going to say, I remember Michael Jackson was
Yep.
there. And he was a skinny little kid then.
Yeah.
But all the girls were all going, Michael,
oh, they were nuts, weren't they?
Michael.
Yeah, and then the big thrill of my life, you don't know, you might remember who this was. I decorated the room for the bear, Gentle Ben. He got his
Well,
own room.
really?
Yeah. And I had
Got
to
his own
decorate it and have all
room.
and you had to have all the stuff for the movies, all the stuff they want in there, water and food and drinks and stuff. So I did that for years, a number of years, till even in college, when I was in college,
Yeah.
when you met me, I was still doing that job. And I also worked at the car dealership around the corner, and I cleaned cars.
Did a lot of work in
And then I played. Of course, I wasn't a Christian then, and then I played in the
Yeah.
band and bars and nightclubs. So
Yeah,
I did.
you were the lead singer.
Yeah, but I worked a lot at the fair anyway, and
Yeah.
and
And you know what? You got your picture on the front page of the newspaper there in Sedalia working at the fair, because there you were
high
way
up.
up high. No one else had the nerve to go that, high
and
up.
they took my picture.
They were so impressed with you way up there.
Put it on the front page.
Hanging up a banner.
Yeah.
You made the front page.
I don't like heights now, though. I don't know what's
Oh, my
happened to
word.
me. I don't know if it happened to old age, but
Yeah.
I went on all the ledges everywhere and carried that heavy ladder and got shocked a couple of times on the electric lines and things like that. And then a few years ago, folks, we went to Chicago and took the
Oh.
family, the little kids, everybody,
Yeah.
grandkids and everything. And we went up. I used to call it was the Sears Tower. I don't remember what it's called
Is
now.
it the Hancock Tower or is it different now?
Yeah, and it's got a
Yeah.
glass floor. By the way, I don't want to take out too much time because I want to talk about God's government today. And I see
good.
people are coming on, Vanita. Hi. And a Willis
It's
Tower.
now the Willis Tower?
Yeah. So anyway, but it's
Okay.
still up there high, and it
Yeah.
had you can walk out on this glass floor, and you look down straight down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, I got to tell this story though. This
All
just the
right.
way things happen, right?
All
And
right.
it happens over and over. Most places, not every place, but most places. But anyway,
Yes.
so we go to the Willis Tower, and there's a long line, and I think, well, it's not too bad though. We get in line. Well, that line was just to get the tickets. So by that time, I don't like lines. By that time, just to get the tickets, I was already lined out, right?
Yeah.
So then you have to take an elevator up to the very top. And when we got up to there, the elevator doors open, and the line is like, rah, 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 and I thought,
Yeah.
this is not for me.
No. I was ready to go. Let's go, honey. Let's just give up.
Yeah, but we had kids with us and
Yeah.
everything. So I think, well, I know who I am here. So I go up to one of the people and I say, by the way, I am supposed to have VIP tickets, and I didn't get them. They didn't give them to me because they said they had already quit selling them. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that. They only sold so many, and I said, I'm supposed to have VIP tickets, and I didn't get them. They said, really? So it's a girl. She was about 16 or 17. She gets on the radio and radios somebody, and they go over and talk to the other person. So they send me over, and the rest of the family stands over here. They don't know they don't even know I'm doing this. And I go, I said, I was supposed to have VIP tickets, and I didn't get any. So
And I
They-
think you sincerely thought so.
sure.
Oh,
Well, of course I thought so.
you were sincere.
I was going to get them, but they weren't
thought s-
selling them anymore.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
And I knew that was a
yeah,
mistake.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
So I went and told. No, I didn't. I
Okay,
knew
never
what
mind.
I would. So I said I should have. I'm supposed to have VIP tickets in my family. Really? Well, come over here. So they took me over to the booth, handed me VIP tickets for everybody in the family, and there were probably 400 people in line. And they said, "Excuse me, excuse me, excuse me." And they were you there, Zion, with this?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, he wasn't.
And,
Oh.
and they escort up our whole family past everybody up to the very top in what 5 minutes. Well, my granddaughter Allie, she's like straight as an arrow, honest as can be.
Right.
She was totally appalled that Grandpa would pull this stunt. So she is apologizing to everybody in the line. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We're going up. And then when we got there, what did we stay? 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
But anyway, then you go out on this glass floor and you look down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
so,
what, 80 floors
so all
or
the
something?
kids and all of us went out there and you stand and you look down.
Yeah.
After all these years, I was very uncomfortable. I did not like it. So the only excuse I had was I'm really nervous because these are my grandkids and kids. And I'm just really nervous to bring other, but that wasn't.
No,
It was really
wasn't
me.
it. It
I just
you.
was having a reaction to heights for the first time in my life. So that's my now Willis Tower story. And there are many stories that our granddaughter Allie can say of how we got tickets and how we got in line.
Yeah.
At lots of places in the country. Well, anyway, you want to talk about God's government today, and here's the reason,
Yeah.
because this last week, as people know, in a primary, not the election, but a primary election in New York City, declared communist socialist won the primary against Cuomo, and he is very, very blatant. I heard interviews by him, and they said, "So you don't believe in billionaires or something like that?" And he says, "I don't think we should have any billionaires. All of them should give we take all the money, and we divide it up equally." And he wants to open up government grocery stores. All the apartments and everything will be owned by the government then, and everybody gets that. So I don't know if they're out of their mind, but I think just a lot of circumstances got him
Yeah.
in. Now, I don't see how he's going to advance on that.
You know, I heard that he appealed to the younger generation who have that entitlement attitude. He appealed to them. You know, you get free housing, free groceries.
Yeah, everything was free. Free groceries, everything. Yeah. And it can't be free,
Except
really.
not really.
No, and I think, that lady they call AOC, I think she got behind him too with her bunch. But anyway, okay. So he's definitely a communist, socialist, but mostly communist. So just for everybody to get review, Communism, a political and economic system where all property is publicly owned and each person works and is paid based on their abilities and needs. There is no private ownership or class system. No private ownership or class. It's a classless society, so nobody owns anything. Okay? That's communism.
Yes.
All right. And communism already failed in history anyway, but okay. Then socialism is also really creeping in more than communism in our country. An economic system where the government or the community owns and controls major industries, aiming to reduce inequality. Private property may still exist, but wealth and resources are more equally distributed. Allows some private ownership, aims for fairness. So those are the two things that are creeping into our country to change the government as we know it. So I wanted to talk about that. But here's what I really wanted to share with you and our friends is, hi Karen, is that if we were to survey just most people and bring in Jesus, because well, Jesus would do this. This is what Jesus would do. And they don't know Jesus. They don't know the Bible, right? But most people would probably think that Jesus is a socialist. I don't think they would maybe think communist, because that's pretty out there. They would think Jesus is probably a socialist because he wants to be fair and everybody. I almost am certain that that's what most people would think. Maybe even church people, maybe even pastors.
Yes.
Okay? So what I did, and this is a short study, but what I did is I got my other paper here, and tried to find out what was the government in Jesus' day, which he did not speak out against it or try to change it. He did speak out of that which were cheaters and liars and corruptness. So the corruptness in the system. So when he went to a lot of people don't understand. When he went to the temple, remember, and he turned over the tables, and this my house will be a house of prayer. You've made it a den of robbers and thieves. Okay. Most people think that's anti-money, and he was upset at that. They've been doing the buying and selling in the temple for years and years and years and years, before he was even born, okay? So he was not opposed to that system. What he was opposed is you had to change your money from Roman coins to temple coins in order to give your money and pay your tax. So if you didn't have it, so they had money changers. Well, then the money changers would overcharge them interest. So when you changed your money from Roman to the temple tax, which should have been, in my opinion, there's the fairness, an exact exchange, equality there. They would charge interest and make interest off of people changing their money to pay their temple tax. And then, a lot of people don't know this. I've told you this story before. But then, like if you came in and let's say you brought in turtle doves, something small, turtle doves, and you say, here, this is for my temple sacrifice. This is for my sacrifice. They'd say, okay, well, we're going to take them. And then, then they'd kill the blood, and whether it be a lamb or goat or whatever, and they kill them, and that was the blood sacrifice for your family, right? Well, what they would do is they would take those, in many cases, they'd take the turtle doves, say, okay, we're going to sacrifice them for you, and you'd think you got sacrificed, and this is my paraphrase, and then they take them and go out back and sort of run behind the curtain, so to speak, and come back out on the other side, and then resell them to somebody who didn't have turtle doves and say, here, buy your sacrifice. So they were reselling the sacrifices.
Whoa.
And there was no bloodshed. Now, there was bloodshed. It wasn't 100%, across the board. Yeah. There was some. But there was this cheating going on.
Well, yeah.
So he turned the money changers' tables over because they were cheating people and charging high interest rates. So that's where people would think he was against the whole system. He was not. Okay, so here's the system it was of why it was. He didn't like it all the time, but he wasn't against it either. They could own private property, yes. Like that's not communism, socialism mainly, but communism. Yes, you could own private landowners, merchants, owned property. But the elite and rich owned most of it and held most of it. So okay, and then in the market, there were local markets, there were trade routes and ports. They were very active, especially in Galilee. So buying and trading, capitalism, basically. They're buying and that was every day, buying and trading, and he never spoke out against that. It was just if it was cheaters and crooks and stuff. Day laborers were common. There was no minimum wage system like we have today, but laborers were common. And they got paid for their work that they did. Let's see, if people were unable to pay their debts, they could lose their land and but they had charity. Taxation, though, was that he didn't like that, was very high, included Roman taxes, temple tax, customs, and tolls. So it was elite religious, but there were merchants. I mean, in these parables, a merchant went to do trade.
Right.
The shrewd manager, which we talked about on one of our podcasts, was like he was doing trade. He was there buying and trading and that. So it was more than it was. It's more complicated than capitalism because it had the Romans occupied and they took over land of the farmers, and it's more complicated because the Roman imperial system was also involved in it. But in its bottom line thing, it was capitalism, buying and trading. You sell for a good price, you give a fair price. He said, when you go, remember, give and it'll be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall people give unto you.
Yes.
Well, that means when they went to buy grain, if they were a fair person, had a great reputation, then the guy who's selling the grain would want to really give you extra. If you were a generous person, they were generous back.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, well, men give unto you. And if you weren't, you're kind of a cheater and not generous like that, they kind of cheat you back. They just wouldn't fill it quite as full for you because they just didn't like you. So you give, be generous, that.
Yeah.
So there was a give, a generosity, a capitalism, a buying and a selling and a trading was going on. Now, why is that important? Because, like I said, most people think that Jesus would be a socialist because he's fair. He treats everybody the same. If you ask most people, does Jesus treat everybody the same? What do you think they're going to ask?
Sure, they're going to say, sure, he does.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what we have is a commercialized, culturized Jesus that does not fit their culture at all. And were there things wrong in their culture? Yes. Are there things wrong in ours too? Yes. But the way that they would think that he would be out to be totally against everything. In fact, the crazy part about it is most Christians who have been around real religion, not just attending, would believe that Jesus was anti-Jewish. Almost 100%. If you go to seminaries and even professors and even the students in seminary or Bible school think that Jesus was anti-Jewish. They think Paul was anti-Jewish. And so Paul would have been against everything Jewish. Jesus would have been against everything Jewish. And they're trying to start a new religion, which would be called Christianity. That's not true. If you read your Bible carefully, Jesus went to the synagogue. Why was he going to synagogue?
Yeah.
He would heal people on the Sabbath in the synagogue.
Yeah.
And it shows no sign that he's against anything
Right.
other than people should be healed on the Sabbath, right? They should be. But not that. And Paul, why do you think Paul got into so much trouble? You remember everywhere he went, he got beat up and almost killed. Everything happened bad to him. There was people beating him up and chasing him all the time. You know why? Read about it. When he goes to town, first place he goes to the synagogue or the temple and begins to participate as a Jew. Mm-hmm. And that's when they ran after him because he was making non-Jews, which would be me. He was incorporating non-Jews into Judaism without making them Jews. And they said, you can't do that. If they're going to be incorporated in as Jews, they have to do all the Jewish things. And Paul said, no, they don't. Mm-hmm. They just have to walk by faith. Mm-hmm. It's faith. So Jews need to have faith. Non-Jews need to have faith. Non-Jews don't become Jews. Jews don't become non-Jews. That's the fight for all these years between Christianity and Jews. Christians tried to make Jews Christians, right?
Yeah.
And in the early days, Jews tried to make Gentiles Jews. And Paul said, nope, they don't have to do that. We have this separation, but in it we become one by faith in the same God and the same Savior. So all this idea that people have of government and who Jesus is and how he would deal with people is all a culturized thing where they think he's
Right.
fairness. And, oh yeah, I should answer the question, does Jesus treat everybody equal? Did you answer it or should I answer it?
I do not believe that he treats everybody equal.
And how is that fair? You know why?
Why?
Because number one, he looks on the heart, not on that you're a human being. Number two,
Right.
he responds to faith. Without faith, you cannot please God.
Right.
So if you have faith and God, then he's going to treat you like he's pleased. If I don't have faith, he's going to treat me because he's not pleased.
Yeah.
And that's not fair.
That's not
But it is.
fair.
It is just.
It is just.
So he is a God of
And-
justice. He is always just and right.
Yes.
He is not fair. And so that's why on the playgrounds of America every day a kid says, "That's not fair." And we say, and we don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be fair.
Right.
It needs to be just.
Yes.
And so equality in God is there in that God loves everybody in equal, but in his responses to people, it's not equal because he responds to faith and he responds to us as we respond to him. And so anyway, the point being is we have a lot to learn about
Yes.
God's government and
Yes.
the government of Jesus. And we've got a lot to learn when we look at our government and we have all these ridiculous, stupid, ignorant people who will out of their mouths they'll say, well, Jesus would
Wow.
accept these people. Jesus would treat these people this way. Jesus would do this. Jesus would do that. And they have not studied the life and the livelihood and the government and the context and the culture that Jesus was in. And what did he come against and what he did not come against? What he did come against was corrupt religion. What he did not come against was the Romans and their way of government. Neither did he really come away against the government of the Pharisees or the Sadducees, except when it became corrupt religion. Their religion was corrupt, not the way they were doing business or anything like that. So he
very
gave
good.
many examples of merchants on the way to go do business, and that's the way it was run.
Yeah.
How do you like that?
I like that, and it's right, and it's just.
So we as believers, you need to pray. Communism will ruin our country. Socialism is not of God either. Communism or socialism is not God's government, and it never has been. And we need to go back and look what was God's government for all those years, from if we want to take Abraham on or Moses on up to Jesus and today.
Yeah.
And that'll keep our heads on straight when we hear these government people and then we hear, like I said, the ding-a-lings and ringing their bell saying, what would Jesus do? And they don't have any idea. They make him into a socialist, most of them. And he was not that way at all.
Right.
What do you think, huh? Fun stuff
That's,
today?
That's potent and eye-opening.
Yeah. And I did that for our
Yeah.
friends
Yeah.
and our church friends who watch and friends from other parts
Yeah.
that watch, to just help them keep their head on straight when they listen to all the rhetoric
Yeah.
that's going on in government today. Well, I hope that was helpful. So tell your friends to get it next time, next Wednesday. Again, we'll be right back here live again. So tell your friends, and they can watch it later on if they can't watch it live. Till